Welcome to Small Steps. My name is Seth Potts and I want to show you how to build dashboards in Excel. Starting out with the end result here, here's a quick dashboard that I made up. It's got several components of it. If you want to learn more about some of these individual items on here, like the slicers or pivot charts, pivot tables, things like that, check out some of the previous videos kind of built up to this. So here's a quick dashboard. Now, a lot of times you'll see dashboards made up on more expensive software or other products that are specifically made for this kind of thing. If you're at an agency or your work just doesn't provide some of the more expensive products, but you're fairly comfortable with Excel, Access, some Microsoft products that are virtually free, it is possible to make these dashboards. Even in a case like this, you could connect these straight over to Access queries that update automatically when you open. So this could be updated every time you open it, or if you have it on a shared server, something like that. Whenever whoever opens it, the end audience can just open this up and start clicking these buttons and clicking through this dashboard. So a couple of main components here. Like I mentioned, we have the slicers up here. These are just the filter buttons we've created, and we've got these pivot charts. So if you look down here, just have several tabs worth of information. We're going to start at the beginning here. I just pulled in some random data as opposed to multiple or a lot of columns extra beyond this. I kind of pared it down to just a few, but some of these we'll use, some we won't. But you get data in and you populate in a field like this. It could be automatically pulling from, like I said, an access query or something, or you can copy and paste, or it could be linked to another table elsewhere that you update. The main thing with this, we're going to be doing this dashboard off of pivot tables. So what the pivot tables have to have in common would be one table, one source data here. So we have just a quick table with a couple things: call source, report type, date, time, case number, stuff like that. What you start off with this data here, and then you go straight into making your pivot tables. Put these on a separate tab just to kind of separate this out, but pick out the few things we wanted. So we just wanted a total count of the case number. We want the broken down count by month, count by year. On this pivot table here, we did a top 10 count, and that would, with those buttons, update by year. So these won't just stay with this top 10, it will update based on the totality of this pivot table here. And then we did one with just the call type. So the 911 calls, so like that would just be any call-ins from the public. We got lobby, so any walk-in reports, and then officer initiated. So you see all these, other than the top 10, all these, you see the numbers match up, so you know they're pulling from the same data. Next tab we have over is going to be the charts. So these charts were all made off of those pivot tables. You don't have to put them on a separate tab here. I just did it for kind of a step-by-step process. But you pick your design, your color scheme, things like that. I just picked a couple random ones, kind of this blue, black, gray, white scheme here for all these. So we made those up and updated the titles, the styles. So we have these here, and at this point these are not linked to anything. These are just independent to the individual pivot tables. So when I get over here, this is where you put the slicers in. You copy and paste the different charts to this page. Now we got the slicers in for the different buttons we wanted. Like we had before, there's quite a few columns worth of data. We just picked the ones we wanted, and we had broken it down with the pivot tables into months and years for the date range there, and then it's like the call source and then the report status. So with that information, we went ahead and built this dashboard. So we're going to walk through that process just from the point of where we have the chart. So we have a new page here, and if you're going to make a new dashboard, I typically wind up hiding these other tabs here, just so the end user just has a dashboard, so whatever you want them to see. So one thing to note, when you're doing charts and stuff, it's not a big deal. If you had pivot tables actually on your dashboard, if you do a background color, like I typically will do a gray or something like that, if you do a pivot table, when you when you filter it down and filter it back, it deletes out the formatting below and just goes back to the table, so it's not a very clean look. If you're doing the charts that stay the same size regardless, then it's not a big deal. So, and that's what we're doing in this. So we'll just color the background whatever color you want, and then when you come over to these charts, these are the ones we've already built. I find it easier to build separately. We're going to just select all those and copy. The new dashboard we're going to paste over here, and we move them down, and they're not absolutely lined up here, so we'll just go ahead and line them up. Mentioned in another video, but if you hold Alt down while you move it, it will snap it to the nearest grid. It's an easy way to get them lined up fairly evenly, and some of these aren't going to be exact, so you can expand them out however you need to get them lined up. But however you get them lined up, you get them like that. And then, so we have these, and we want to get the slicers. So you're going to go to Insert. I'm going to start with just clicking on one of these and click on Slicer up here. Now when you do that, it's going to give you this list here. Now these are all the items in that pivot table that match. Now since we pulled all these off the same source, the same categories are going to be in there, so that's how we can get all these to connect. So we'll just start with one of these. Some of the items we had on there, we had the year, the report date. In the pivot table we changed that. We're just going to show the month as well, so we'll check that. The call source we wanted, and the report status. Those are the four we had selected on there, and you can always choose any of the other ones that you want. These are just the four that we had listed here. So they're going to stack them up like this here. You're just going to pull them individually and place them where you want. I typically like these at the top here, and you line them up however, and you can resize on this up here, the slicer tab at the top. You can resize these and make them taller, shorter, things like that. So make them fit a little better. You can always make them smaller, larger here. So typically I'd probably move those down a little more, but we'll just have the scroll bar for now. This one will make them fit a little better. You can change the height of the buttons to fill the space out a little better. We'll do the same for this source. So get the table to fit there, the slicer to fit there, and then we'll just increase the buttons to fit better. And then let's get this last one up here, and we'll get this down here. I say just play with it till you get these things are the size that you want and lined up how you want. It's not always a quick thing. So we'll get these buttons in here and columns just like that. Buttons a little taller. Okay, so now we have the buttons like we want, and we have everything. Now you look when I click one thing, they're gonna start updating. I'd done these previously, so it's not showing them all disconnected, but what you'll have to do when you add these buttons is go up, click on one and go to that slicer tab, and you see this report connections. You're going to click on that and see, since I already did this earlier, it's actually connected them all. These are all the different pivot tables. So the slicer, when I started with just one of these charts, it just had that one chart, that pivot table selected that was part of that with that chart, and you had to click the other ones on. So just go through and make sure that they are all connected to all the pivot tables, and you have to do that for each one. These should all be good to go at this point, but it's worth checking them all and making sure. So now we know they're all selected on there, and they all intertwine with all these charts. So anytime you click any of these, it will update these different charts here. So you have a fully functioning dashboard at this point. So we're just looking at 2022 year to date. So he's going to update. So yeah, January through July. That makes sense here. It's got the individual items. You can see the top 10 types of cases for this year. Some of the stuff is interesting looking back. You can actually see when I take all the filters off. This is in totality here, but when you select back to 2020, you can kind of see like where COVID came and hit. February to March, and then just the lack of cases taken during that time. So kind of explainable with some of the data. So when you're looking at some of this, it makes it easy to explain if you kind of know some of the reason behind highs and lows of different things. Maybe you're down some officers, things like that, and you can see the calls going up or down. But yeah, you can come here and select and look all this stuff, or like I say, you have an end user wanting to do this, they can check this stuff out as well. So it's kind of the quick rundown of adding pivot tables and charts, and then connecting the slicers in and doing a quick background and get you to a working dashboard. So play around with it. Use different data, try to connect different things, and play around the different charts, this and that as you like, and you can make your own dashboard fairly quickly. If you found this tutorial helpful and would like to see more, click like and subscribe. Next video coming up is going to be over the left, right, and mid functions.